Hello everyone and welcome back to a brand new video of Fox Flicks on Popcross Studios. Today we're going to see about turning SCPs into aliens. Now, let's check this out. And by aliens he means, of course, xenomorphs, not alien. Come on.
Ever since doing my famous Monsters as Aliens episode, I've been trying to think of something else fun I could do with xenomorphs. At first I thought maybe Pokemon xenomorphs, but then I just did a mini bonus episode out of that. Then I thought a full Godzilla xenomorphs episode could be cool, but then I did the Godzilla Demigods episode and didn't want to double up on Godzilla stuff too quick, so I kept racking my brain.
Hold on one moment. Okay, we're good now.
Of something until it finally hit me that I haven't done an SCPs focused video in months, and that's one of my favorite topics to work with on this channel. So I floated the idea out to my subscribers to get some suggestions for what SCPs could make cool xenomorphs, and you all gave me tons of great ideas, and that's what we're using today. So let's get into it, shall we? Let's hit like
there we go.
if you want, subscribe
No,
if you feel like, but either way, enjoy the show.
We will.
Good evening and welcome everyone to this impromptu but highly necessary lecture. As some of you are likely aware by now, a series of experiments, meant to be classified to level 4 personnel and above, have gotten completely out of hand and are causing far more problems than they were worth.
Oh boy.
Today we'll be covering what exactly transpired to start formulating some plans as to how we can correct these issues and prevent further errors in judgment in the future.
Do go on, Professor.
For some time, we've contained specimens of an SCP species that has since been reclassified as SCP-X00. Prior to experiments, they were simply known as a very hostile yet containable alien species, codenamed xenomorphs. Roughly 1 year ago, we learned significantly more about this species as we discovered an underground pyramid that housed within it a xenomorph queen, which also informed us of how these creatures come about in the first place. The queen lays eggs inside of which reside a proto-form of these creatures, classified X00-1, an insect-like creature that leaps from the eggs, wraps around the face of an entity within reach, and lays within them a xenomorph embryo to incubate in the host body. In less than a day, the creature will grow inside the host, erupt from within their chest, usually killing the host, then rapidly grow over the next few hours to full size. This, of course, may be common knowledge to many of you, but what was previously more classified information was that a since-deceased Level 4 scientist named Dr. Uot was experimenting with the newly discovered egg samples to see how they would affect existing SCPs. This was done because it was discovered the creatures adapt traits of whatever host they are incubated in. The first experiment saw an egg placed in containment with a specimen of SCP-939. For a quick rebrief, these Keter-class entities are Crimson Hound-like endothermic predators that hunt in packs. They have no circulatory system or digestive tract, and Dr. Uot wanted to discover if the specimens of X00 would still be able to grow inside a creature that lacked these functions. As expected, X00-1 leapt from the egg and injected the 939 specimen. 4 hours later, the creature showed signs of distress. After another 20 minutes, the young xenomorph burst from the creature's side, instead of from its chest, and scrambled across the room. The 939 specimen survived for another 15 minutes further before succumbing to its injuries. The X00 specimen, specifically classified now as SCP-X939, grew to a full size of 2 meters in length over the next 3 hours, and did indeed have features resembling 939. While the xenomorph species commonly has a black exoskeleton when hatched from a human, this specimen was bright red, like Subject 939. Xenomorphs commonly have no eyes, nor do 939, so this remained consistent, but the creature did adapt the hound's light-sensitive spots, though more protruded than on the host species, and also grew 939's frills, which sense changes in air pressure. The creature also had a slightly more hound-like appearance than common xenomorphs, having extended front arms and walking consistently on all fours. Dr. Uot also spoke into the creature's containment over a PA system for some time to see if X939 could adapt voices as 939 can, and eventually it proved capable of using 939's main tactic of luring prey. It could repeat phrases said by Dr. Yuat and even alter them to construct new statements, though some did not make grammatical or logical sense. This creature also proved far stronger and faster than common specimens of 939, and thankfully was not part of the recent breakout at Site-18. Though, considering the havoc wrought, it's hard to imagine this creature could have made things much worse. This experiment in its own right was not a wholly illogical thing to attempt, but it did lead to continued experiments which got far more out of hand down the line.
Wait, you continued using xenomorphs? Professor, that's crazy! I do like the look of the tail though. It doesn't look like it can stab, but only slice.
With the X00 Queen in Foundation containment, Dr. Yuat had no shortage of xenomorph eggs with which to experiment, and he trialed these subjects on many more SCPs in containment. Some were successful and others were not, but Yuat slowly got more and more reckless about which SCPs he attempted to imbue with xenomorph spawn. Eventually, he trialed this on SCP-953. 953 is a polymorphic fox, or kumiho, that often appears as a Korean humanoid woman with 9 tails. Along with the ability to shift form, she also has significant psychic powers that allow her to give those near her horrifying hallucinations, and even convince them to commit violent acts, far outside what they'd normally be willing to do. Considering the inherent intelligence level of xenomorphs, the Doctor grew curious if a xenomorph grown within 953 would have the brainpower required to appropriate her psychic strengths, as well as, of course, wondering if her shape-shifting abilities would come through. And so he brought an egg to Site-17 and placed it in her containment. The common events followed. It attached to her face, she tore it to shreds, but the embryo was implanted within her. It grew in under 3 hours and burst from her chest, though she was able to heal herself fairly quickly and remain alive. 953 attempted to attack the newly made SCP-X953 specimen, and so she was restrained and the specimen transferred to Site-18 for continued study. The creature grew to 5 feet at standing height and commonly appears as a semi-humanoid fox, with its core shape heavily resembling a common xenomorph. Segments of its body are covered in orange fur, though beneath that is the exoskeleton common to the alien species. The creature also has clearly visible ears, resembling that of a fox. X953 also has the same 9 tails, but these are each tipped with blades, commonly found on X00 specimens, and they are incredibly agile and lethal appendages. The specimen did show some ability to shift form, though less dramatically so than the original 953. It could shrink to 3/4 its resting size, and alter its arms into legs to have a more canine-like form. To test the creature's potential psychic abilities, it was put in a cell split by titanium bars, on the other side of which was placed a D-class subject. After 5 minutes of X953 thrashing at the bars, thrusting its tails through to try and reach the D-class subject, it soon seemingly realized its psychic potential. It stopped lashing out, and moments later, the D-class subject walked over to the bars, where it was then in reach of the creature, which then killed the subject, removed and consumed his liver, as is common for a creature with traits of 953.
It's always the liver.
With the creature having proven to have psychic abilities and clearly being a very intelligent killer, some have now theorized that it swayed Dr. Yuat to do the, frankly, completely moronic trial he attempted next. I am personally skeptical that this is the case, and believe it may be some simply trying to preserve his legacy, though it should be noted that X953 was one of the entities freed in the Site-18 breakout, despite having its containment nowhere near the incident. With no security footage recovered, it is still unclear how this came about, and some suggest Dr. Yuat actively freed the creature in the midst of the chaos as a result of being hypnotized by X953. Regardless of whether or not this is true, we can now move on to the unfortunate creation of the hard-to-destroy queen.
Wait. No, you can't be serious. You had 682 become a host? Professor, that is the... Professor, you can't be serious.
SCP-682 likely needs
To have 682 become our host, it's world-ending. It's beyond kettle. Oh, it would be like an XK class situation, and a world ender.
Introduction. The hard-to-destroy reptile is the most infamous SCP in Foundation containment, and has been experimented on hundreds of times to see if any other SCPs could manage to kill it. It is very difficult to see how Dr. Yuat could have been in his right mind when he decided to try creating a xenomorph version of this creature, but all the same, he went forth with this trial.
The guy
though very
was a freaking
skeptical
idiot
himself that it would work, according to his notes.
No, it wouldn't.
682 was bound in its containment, so it was easy to place the egg before it and have X00-1 inject its embryo. Dr. Yuat assumed the creature would simply die in 682's stomach, but to his great surprise, 26 minutes after the trial commenced, a xenomorph crawled out of 682's throat, clearly having struggled to burst from its chest. 682 tore the creature to shreds with its teeth and left it to pieces scattered across its containment, but as 682 would have done in response, the xenomorph soon healed from the attack and continued to grow at a rapid speed.
And
Dr. Yuat moved the creature quickly to an old containment cell used for SCP-682 and began to observe this new creature. As expected, the creature took on aesthetic traits of 682, but beyond that, and more surprising and concerning still, this xenomorph took on a form very similar to the xenomorph queen. It had an extended exoskull with very similar crests to the queen, and had an extra set of smaller arms. It also grew to nearly 20 feet in standing height. Dr. Yuat had various weaponry tested on the creature, and it indeed proved to have the same invulnerability that 682 famously has.
A
trait that it would unfortunately pass on to its spawn. You see, a week after X682 was created, it began laying its own eggs. Dr. Yuat retrieved the first of these from the containment and found that the face-hugging creature that spawned from these eggs were also indestructible. What should have been done next was to launch X682 and any eggs it had lain thus far into deep space, or put it into a pocket dimension to be kept well away from any natural life, but instead, Dr. Yuat decided to continue his trials, now using these far more dangerous xenomorph eggs. He took one of these from Site 18 and chartered a plane to fly above the site where stays one of the most powerful SCPs known to the Foundation, an entity widely referred to as the Gate Guardian.
001? Oh god, if you can infect that thing, we all... Yeah, humanity's over. Nope, I'm telling them my
The Gate Guardian certainly would not have been on Dr. Yuat's radar for these experiments prior to acquiring the indestructible xenomorph eggs. The entity is 1,000 feet tall and has proven impossible to move or contain. It stands as the guard of a portal to what appears to be the Garden of Eden. The entity remains in this location to prevent any beings from entering. It cannot be approached within a kilometer-wide radius. Anything that enters that space will either be vaporized by the Guardian and its massive flaming blade, or be commanded by the Guardian to retreat. Refusal will lead to the latter response. Dr. Yuat approached his trial by flying directly above the creature and dropping the egg to land before it. Dr. Yuat has no notes to follow, considering he died shortly after this trial began, but footage he filmed as he attempted this showed that after the egg dropped about 20 meters from his plane towards the Guardian, it vanished. The Guardian is believed to have imperceptible speed, so it is believed that it flew through the air and caught the egg. From a distance, it was then observed trying to crush the egg in its hand, then slicing it with its sword. When both of these failed, it simply hurled the egg 3 kilometers away, tracked easily enough because the egg remained on fire as it hurtled through the air. Dr. Yuat found the egg, still on fire, and used fire-resistant tools to transfer it onto a flatbed truck to be brought back to the Foundation for study. Unfortunately, just as he had arrived at Site 18 with the specimen, he was taking the flaming egg down the halls when it burst open. Inside was not an X00-1 specimen, but a full-fledged xenomorph, seeming to have incubated in the flames of the Gate Guardian.
Okay,
Within 1 minute, the creature grew to 1.5 meters in height, sprouting 4 wings, a golden body, and a flaming tail, tipped with a blade that resembled the Guardian's.
Wow.
Which, as a side note, suggests that the Gate Guardian's weapon is a part of its physiology. Something we had certainly not assumed prior to this event.
That's actually very
Security
badass.
personnel surrounded the entity, but it simply remained floating in midair, unmoving. That is, until one of the guards stepped closer. Once she was within 10 feet of the creature, it moved next to her so quickly it's still unclear if it was teleporting or flying, then impaled her with its sword. Her body was eviscerated instantly, and the xenomorph then moved to the next closest guard and continued to strike any who came too close.
Oh boy.
Unfortunately, as it slashed through guards and personnel, its tail also cut clean through many of the doors and walls around it, freeing dozens of SCPs that then aided in the chaos of the event. As previously mentioned, X953 was one of the creatures freed, despite the Xeno Guardian being nowhere near its cell. Whether Dr. Yuot freed it or not, the creature then went straight to the containment of X682 and freed the indestructible queen. Those creatures escaped together and their location is currently unknown, but it is top priority to discover. The Xeno Guardian eventually stopped its rampage and now continues to simply float in place in a hallway of Site-18. As far as we know, it cannot be moved, and plans are being made to build a containment around it so nobody can get within 10 feet of it. Some SCPs that escaped during the ordeal have been recontained, and others were loosed back into the world. A list of entities to be reapprehended have been distributed to Samsara and other field units. Dr. Yuot was found with a hole pierced through his chest, believed to be caused by one of X953's tails, though with so many SCPs having been loosed on the facility, there are many other possibilities as well. The entire Foundation is on high alert. All escaped subjects must be recaptured and contained, but X682 stands above them all. 2 indestructible xenomorphs is already too many, and every second X682 is out there, it could be making more like it. The O5 Council has agreed. Anyone instrumental in bringing the creature in will be viable for significant promotion. Whatever your field is, ignore it. Find the indestructible queen. Or SCP-343, help us all.
Oh, that's God. Your way. Yeah, can we get him to go ahead and erase this stuff, please?
Well, this turned out cool enough that
you know, while he talks, let me just...
I even decided to turn all 4 drawings into one big poster that'll be linked in the description and up on my Teespring store by the time you're watching this.
Now that's
As always, I would also love some more suggestions for other things I could do with either of these topics. Either more Xenomorph stuff I could do, or more SCPs you want to see me use.
Ooh, yes.
All the suggestions you got, I'd love them in the comments. And if you are new to this channel, I recommend my Famous Monsters as Xenomorphs episode, or maybe my 2 episodes of SCPs as Dragons. But besides that's all for today, except of course for ending this video on some kind of positive or inspiring note, and the thought I want to leave people with today is actually a suggestion based on something I did this week. I read something that was really kind of sticking with me and frustrating me a bit, and I've gotten a lot better over the last few years about not ruminating on silly, annoying things. But after about 15 minutes, I saw that this was sticking with me and my mind wanted to keep cycling through it, so I decided to force my mind to do something productive instead. I went and watched a bunch of Mark Brunette art videos, one of which I'll link in the cards because he's got some really awesome tutorials up on YouTube. And so instead of staying in some kind of negative thought loop, I learned something that applies to something I care about. Just a good tactic for taking a negative situation and turning it into something positive. I hope that's an inspiring idea to someone out there. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. I love you all, and I'll see you all in the next episode on Monday. Goodbye.
Alright, folks, and that is where we're going to end off today's episode. So, I want you all to remember to like, comment, and subscribe for more, and I'll see all of you folks next time. Oh wait, a link to the original video will be in the description below. So, remember to support the original creator and all they do, and I'll see all of you folks next time when we flick on. Peace out.